Rey is fucking ruining Star Wars. There, I said it. I know this is going to make me unpopular with certain people, but like an embarrassingly large turd, this is something that needs to be flushed down the toilet bowl of the internet so we can all breathe a little easier. Before I go any further, let me preface this by acknowledging that all entertainment is inherently boils down to nothing more than people's subjective personal opinions. There's no right or wrong points of view here, and if you personally like Rey and think The Last Jedi was a masterpiece of cinema, you're still fucking wrong, and I'm going to tell you why. The character of Rey and her progression through the last two Star Wars movies is fucking killing the storytelling capability of this series. She is literally writing them into a corner. This is happening for a number of reasons, but for the sake of brevity, I'm going to boil them down to three big ones. I'm also going to include my own theories on why I think this is happening and what can possibly be done to fix it at this point. Ready? Good, let's flush this turd. Reason 1, Rey's a Mary Sue. I know you don't want to hear this, and I know it's easy to label anyone who agrees with me as a sexist, a misogynist, a gynecologist, or any other ist under the sun, but the fact remains that's exactly what she is. What the fuck do I know about it? Well, I'm a professional author who's sold over $2 million worth of books in the past 5 years, and yeah, I know this makes me an arrogant asshole, but shut up, I'm trying to make a point here. And my point is that I know a thing or two about storytelling, plot, pacing, and character development. More importantly, I know what a Mary Sue is, why they happen, and how to avoid them. The issue started in The Force Awakens, where we learned pretty quickly that Rey's good at things. A lot of things. You get the point. It's fair to say Rey in Force Awakens has an unusual amount of skills and abilities that are either with her at the start of the movie or come to her uncharacteristically easily. She also has no real character flaws. Luke Skywalker in the original trilogy was whiny, impetuous, hot-headed and impatient. In short, he was a typical fucking teenager who thought he knew better than everyone else, and he often suffered for it. In The Empire Strikes Back, he constantly questions the wisdom that Yoda tries to give him, fails to listen to his warnings about the dangers of the dark side, and ultimately leaves to fight Darth Vader before he's ready. He falls victim to arrogance and hubris, the path to the dark side, and well, I think we know how that turned out. Rey never has any of this. She's always upbeat, stoic, resourceful, compassionate, and strong. You know, it's funny how that's the word that people always use to describe her. It's almost as if they can't think of anything else to describe her actual personality or character arc. But unfortunately, strong doesn't equal interesting. Strong doesn't equal likeable or relatable. It's just one characteristic that's supposed to sit amongst many. Don't get me wrong, she was at least given enough sass and funny moments to make her likeable in The Force Awakens. Her humble upbringings as an anonymous junk scavenger, her wistful gazes at departing spaceships, her collection of dusty rebel memorabilia made her a bit more human and likeable. She was a penniless orphan living on some backward dust bowl at the end of nowhere, desperate to escape and still clinging to the hope of reuniting with her parents. That's good foundations to build a character on. When she visits a new planet and sees trees and lakes for the first time, we share in her sense of wonder and exhilaration. And when she's taken under the wing of Han Solo, she begins to see him as the father she never had, and she develops a real bond with him, which makes it feel significant when she loses him. Like I say, these are good elements that help to give her character difficulties to grapple with, but they never really come to anything and they have no lasting implications for her. Things get even worse in The Last Jedi. In that movie, she's like a black hole of fun and charisma that drags the whole movie down. Stripped of the naive optimism, youthful energy, charm and humility that made her tolerable in The Force Awakens, she's somber, serious and flat, and it just kills the enjoyment. She goes on no journey, encounters no adversity, doesn't develop at all and learns nothing of value. Her entire plot arc in that movie is that she's tracked down Luke Skywalker to a remote planet where he's been hiding for the past 10 years, and she's trying to recruit him to join the Resistance and help her understand her Force powers. Now, I thought this would be an interesting setup. What wisdom would an older and more experienced Luke give to this young woman? What trials and training would he put her through? Would he give her a harsh reality check about the limitations of her powers and help her understand that being a Jedi takes years of work and discipline? Nope. Luke's not interested. He doesn't train her, he gives her no real understanding of the Force or what she should do with her newfound powers. He's just a grumpy old man who keeps telling her to leave, so she beats him up and leaves. I'm not even close to kidding on this one. This is not character development. If Rey learns nothing, goes nowhere, and is stronger than everyone around her, what's the fucking point in her character? She's just an empty vessel that says things the script needs her to say, does what the plot needs her to do, and beats anyone who stands in her way, which leads me to my next point. Reason number 2, Rey never loses. Nothing ever challenges Rey in these movies, at least not enough to be a credible threat, and certainly never enough to put her in real danger. This is a problem. If there's no danger, there's no drama, and if there's no drama, then nothing that happens in the movie has any meaning or consequence. I didn't care one bit about Rey in The Last Jedi because I knew by this point that nothing bad was ever going to happen to her. In A New Hope, young Luke was constantly getting into scrapes that other people had to help him out of. First with the Sand People, then those two assholes in the cantina, then the escape from the Death Star with Princess Leia. Why? Because he really wasn't ready for any of this stuff. Yeah, he was brave and willing to take risks, but he wasn't a fighter or an adventurer. He was just a dumb farm boy in over his head, surrounded by people far more dangerous and competent than him. Instinctively, you rooted for him because he was the classic underdog, and secretly you knew you'd be in the same boat if you were in this movie, getting your ass kicked by sand people or having no plan on how to rescue the princess. Rey doesn't experience any of that. She skillfully and competently fights her way out of every situation she finds her in, overcomes every obstacle, and always knows what to do. Her training with Luke in Last Jedi consists of a few brief scenes that tell us almost nothing about her. There's no sense of her struggle to master difficult Jedi skills, no frustration at being told the difficult path that promises greater wisdom and understanding later, no real conflict or fear that she might choose the easy route to power and be turned to the dark side. Everything she sets her mind to, she accomplishes with ease, and it's so fucking boring to watch. Think back to Luke Skywalker's journey in the original trilogy. His Jedi training under Yoda was a physical and spiritual ordeal that often threatened to overwhelm him. He struggled to develop his Force powers, failed to heed Yoda's warnings about the dark side, left before he was fully trained, and ultimately his overconfidence almost resulted in his death for the first time he faced Vader. It was a brutal knockdown that forced him to grow and mature, and we as the audience sympathised with him through his adversity. Rey goes on no such journey and experiences no such setbacks, so she doesn't grow or develop at all. She's the same fucking person through both movies. Her personality doesn't change because she doesn't really have one. The first time she fights Kylo Ren, she taps into her Force powers and easily gets the better of him. When she confronts him again in Last Jedi, he's better prepared but still barely able to hold his own against her. Jesus, I almost find myself rooting for him instead of Rey because he actually feels like he's going on a journey. He's the one who's experienced a humiliating defeat and has to bounce back from it. The only bad guy to pose any credible threat to her is Snoke, who's supposed to be the big bad of the entire series, but Kylo Ren fucking murders him in a move that makes zero sense just as he's exerting his Force powers on Rey. Yet again, Rey experiences no defeats. At one point she even gets into a physical battle with Luke fucking Skywalker himself, and instead of taking a much needed character building defeat at the hands of the old Jedi Master, she easily beats him too. The message is clear, Rey's in charge here, and she don't need no man to show her the way. Even if he's the most powerful Jedi who ever lived, you know, the guy who redeemed Darth Vader and saved the entire galaxy. Fuck this movie. Point number 3, Rey has no character arc. There's nowhere left for Rey to go as a character now. The only antagonist left for her to face is Kylo Ren, and we've already established that Rey's stronger than him, both with the Force and with a lightsaber, so where's the conflict and drama supposed to come from now? Think about every classic good versus evil movie you've seen in your life. The antagonist starts out as a powerful, unstoppable force that the hero is hopelessly outmatched against. They take them on, get easily beat down, and endure a crisis of confidence. Ultimately, they'll learn some lesson about themselves that helps them find their confidence again, and they'll tackle their enemy with renewed determination, usually winning through in the end. This is called the hero's journey. Yeah, it's formulaic, but what do you want? There are rules to storytelling, and if you break too many of them, then your movie starts to fall apart quicker than My Will to Live at an Amy Schumer concert. Rey never goes on this hero's journey because she never gets beaten. She never gets injured and humiliated and experiences a crisis of confidence, so she doesn't grow or develop as a person at all. Yeah, her skills and abilities expand, but that's not the same as actual character development. How good Luke Skywalker became at swinging a lightsaber or lifting stuff with the Force was less important than how he developed as a person. That was the real journey. He grew and matured over the course of his 3 movies, changing from an idealistic kid to an overconfident youth, and finally to a wise and compassionate man. He learned the dangers of arrogance and giving into anger and hatred, the power of self-sacrifice and redemption, and the wisdom of forgiveness. That was what made him such a compelling character. Rey hasn't done any of this. She hasn't learned any of these lessons, and she's never had to struggle and fail or grow and mature. She hasn't learned any of the skills or powers that she now has. Everything's just given to her. She's already defeated the bad guy once, so there's no credible threat left to challenge her. Literally, her only conflict in this movie boils down to, what shall I do with all this awesome power I now have? But the irony is that by building Rey higher and higher, they're undermining the very foundation of who she is, ultimately pushing fans away from someone they find increasingly hard to relate to. Her victories against neutered opponents feel hollow and cheap, her all-conquering power unearned, and for that reason I believe Rey is fucking ruining Star Wars. So why did this happen? Well, it'd be easy for me to lay the blame at the feet of writer and director Rian Johnson, a relatively unproven talent with only a handful of feature films to his credit, and it's a fucking mystery why they gave this guy a creative blank check to do whatever the hell he wanted with a multi-billion-dollar franchise like Star Wars. Certainly he has to take a lot of the blame, because there's no reason not to believe that this film was his creative vision. That being said, I don't fully blame Rian for having shit ideas. I've had some dumb fucking ideas in my time, but filmmaking is supposed to be a collaborative process. There are supposed to be a system of checks and balances to prevent dumb ideas turning into terrible movies. And I find it impossible to believe that nobody from a major studio like Lucasfilm or Disney just blindly trusted him. No, the person I think is mostly responsible for this nonsense is Kathleen Kennedy, the president of Lucasfilm, and effectively the most powerful person in the Star Wars universe now that George Lucas has fucked off. Why do I think she's responsible for Rey being an overpowered superwoman and the general glut of superficially flawless female characters that have been awkwardly shoehorned into a story that doesn't really need them? Oh, I don't know. Kathleen's made it clear in numerous interviews and publicity statements that she views this new trilogy as being female-centric. The Force is female, as they say. She wants to see as many strong female characters on screen as possible at all times, no matter whether they're unlikable, unbelievable, or generally irrelevant to the plot. Just shove them in there any way you can, guys. While I'm certainly all in favour of strong female characters on screen, there's a fine line of believability you have to walk when you're developing them, and Rey falls victim not only to crossing this line, but striding several miles beyond it. If you want to give us a female character we can root for, then stop playing it so bloody safe with her all the time. Don't be afraid to take risks. Let her get hurt and injured sometimes. Let her be frightened and vulnerable. Let her doubt herself. Let her make mistakes and need help from others. Those are things that humanise a character, and they're horribly, horribly lacking in Rey's case. Conclusions. Can Rey and Star Wars be fixed, or is it too late? Well, we're 2 movies down now and there's only 1 to go, so if Rey's character is going to be redeemed, then we're going to have to cram an awful lot of plot and character development into episode 9, and I'm not convinced that J.J. Abrams is the guy to do it. He's certainly a talented director, but his strength really lies in fast-paced action and great set pieces rather than mature character development. Still, if I could give him some advice, I'd say the following. 1. Rey has to lose a fight. Sorry, but there's no way around this. Rey has dominated every confrontation she's been in so far, and it has to stop. She needs a setback. She needs to be hurt and beat down so she can grow and develop as a character. My advice would be to have her become overconfident, maybe feeling that she's mastered the Force already, only to come up against a stronger and more focused Kylo Ren who totally kicks her ass, and she has to be rescued by Finn or Poe. Then she has a period of recuperation before taking him on again at the climax of the movie. Is this formulaic? Yes, it fucking is, but there's a reason we have formulas in movies. They fucking work. 2. Stop bashing men. For some reason, every male character in The Last Jedi acts like a fucking teenage girl. They're moody, impulsive, short-sighted, jealous, insecure, and emotional. Strong female characters are great, but if they're only made strong by reducing men to weak and ineffective morons, then it's all for nothing because it means nothing. It's not like a seesaw, Kathleen. Both sides can go up at the same time. 3. Stop treating your fans like idiots and stop making Star Wars political. I know it's 2018 and everyone has to have a political opinion on fucking everything, but people aren't stupid and they don't like being preached to. When your anti-capitalist, anti-male, anti-white people's social justice agenda takes priority over actual storytelling and characterization, well, they're gonna notice and they're not gonna like it. More important, they're not gonna pay to see it, which is why your movie made $800 million less than its predecessor. 4. Make Kylo Ren a proper threat. Kylo needs to stop acting like a moody, emo, asshole teenager and more like an all-conquering badass out to reshape the galaxy in his image. He's had his wobbles, but it's time to stop fucking about. He's the supreme leader of the First Order now, so he should be focused and ruthless in his pursuit of domination. He's the biggest remaining threat to our heroes, and he's Rey's nemesis, so you have to make us believe he can actually beat her. 5. Bring back the real Luke Skywalker. Luke's portrayal in Last Jedi was nothing less than an all-out character assassination, and I'll do a separate video on that. But given that Carrie Fisher is dead and Harrison Ford's unlikely to return to the franchise, Luke Skywalker is the only original character you've got left. Bring him back as a Force ghost so he can speak to Rey and give her the Jedi training she didn't get in The Last Jedi. Rey needs a mentor. She needs someone to guide her, help her through tough moments, and maybe find the inner strength she needs to win. Again, just because she's a woman and he's a man doesn't mean she has to be better than him at everything all the time forever. It's not a betrayal of womankind to give her someone to look up to, and who maybe knows a thing or two that she doesn't. She's young and naive, and he's old and experienced. That's the character dynamic that matters here. Use that, and let Rey learn something from Luke. In conclusion then, yes, I do believe Rey can be salvaged in the final movie of this trilogy. It's going to take a lot of work, a bit of pride swallowing, and almost certainly a bit of retconning of her personal history, but I hope they do manage to do something interesting with her and give Star Wars the triumphant send-off that it deserves. For better or worse, this series is a massive part of modern pulp culture. The original trilogy were timeless classics that people can revisit again and again, and I believe that our generation deserves something just as special.